Hey guys, I'm putting some final touches on the 38.7 chassis before I install it back in the cabinet. So you can see I got the concentric assembly installed, got all the tubes populated, got the shields installed, and what I'm doing now is going through an alignment procedure. I'm using my Hewlett-Packard 8657A. Got it set for an IF frequency of 0.47 megahertz, also known as 470 kilohertz. And I'm using 400 hertz, 50% AM modulation. In other words, I'm performing the alignment by ear rather than hooking up a meter. They say to use a meter connected between the cathode and the plate of the 6F6 output tube. I'm just going to do it by ear. And the output is going down and around. I got one clipped ground to the chassis. The other is going through a 0.1 microfarad cap for isolation, and then just clipped onto the top cap on the 6A8 tube. When you do this, you want to start from the coil closest to the speaker and work your way back towards the front end. So that would be this one, and then this, and then this, and then this. Technically you should use an insulated tool, but these screws are pretty tight, and I think if I tried using this tool, it might break off, but well, let's give it a try. Now, one nice thing about this is it's got a really good output attenuator. You can go really, really low on this. What I want to do is crank up the volume on the radio as far as it'll go and use as low an amplitude as I can and still be able to hear it. I can just barely make out the tone there. Yeah, let's try tweaking this. See if this tool will work. It's tight, but I can just turn it. Oh yeah, well, that's better. It's fading away. Go back the other way. My tool doesn't break off. Right about there. I'm going to try using a screwdriver just to see. Some radios, using a metal screwdriver, really throws things off. Others, it really doesn't make much of a difference. I think it depends on what these are actually attached to. Yeah, on this one, no change whatsoever. I'm going to bring it over, so I think I'm safe in using this, and this is much easier to turn and more torque. Right about there. Oh, let's do this guy. Let's drop this down. Minus 80 dB. Now this is affecting it a bit. I can hear it gets a little bit louder when I bring it in, so let me go back to the plastic tool. And there's another issue. This barely fits through the hole. I think, yeah, okay, we're alright. So, right about there. Let's do this guy. That one, will you need any adjustments? And let's do this guy for you. That's pretty good too. Alright. Now the final adjustment should be made. Instead of hooking up the RF generator to here, it should go to the antenna. And then you set the dial. First we'll do the shortwave band, 18 megahertz. And then we'll do some of the shortwave trimmers. And they clearly indicate on here what to do. As I said before, people ask me to do videos showing a radio alignment and go through and show exactly where I hook everything up. It's different for every radio. You've really got to get your hands on the alignment instructions and just go through and do what they say. Connect the equipment where they say to connect the equipment and go through and adjust it in the order that they say. But, generally speaking, you inject the signal at the appropriate point, you start with the IF closest to the audio output, work your way to the front end, and after the IF is aligned, you aligned the antenna trimmer and the oscillator trimmer. Alright, for the RF trimmers, as I was saying, you hook it up to the antenna terminal on the back. And first they want us to do 1500, so I'm going to dial right on 1500. And let's dial this in for 1500. There we go. And just 7A and 4A. So 7A, those are those two funky big boxy capacitors underneath. So first we'll do 7A. And 4A is the one on top of the capacitor. This is an oscillator trimmer for this is the high frequency oscillator trimmer. The one next to it is the low frequency oscillator trimmer. We'll get to that in a moment. And now for this, one of my friends, I think it was on the Philco forum, made this up for me. It's a tool to, it's an insulated tool to adjust hex nuts. He'd seen my video on, I think it was my Philco 60MB. The Philco 60 chassis have trimmers on the back of the chassis with holes, and those trimmers are hot. They got B+ on them, and I was using a hex nut driver. And if you short that out, it's like playing the old operation game. Chassis ground, the trimmer capacitor's got high voltage on it, and you short it out. So I just wrapped some electrical tape around it. It's kind of a poor man's alignment tool, but this is a much better solution. So it's a nylon bolt with an internal hex on it, 1/4 inch, I believe, and then that's just inserted into a threaded piece of wood. So, right over here, all nice and insulated. Let's see about there. And now we flip over to 580 on the dial. Right there. And frequency 580 kilohertz. And now we adjust 7, which is the other trimmer capacitor. Right here. I don't really need any adjustments. Well, the reason I do this, they have a trimmer for the high and the low end, is to get everything to track right. So we've got this dial here, linear tracking, as you rotate this, which is going to the variable capacitor, which they engineered it to try to be pretty linear as well, so it varies in capacitance as you rotate it, and that should change the local oscillator to match up with the numbers in the dial. But usually you need to tweak it at either end, so you kind of usually have to go back and forth a little bit to get things just right. In fact, they say to do 1500, then do 580, and then go back and do 1500 again, because when you tweaked it to 580, you might have thrown things off at the other end a little bit. So now we'll do 1500 again. Not the biggest deal in the world, because when I tune in a station, I just listen for it. I don't stare at the dial and try to get the numbers right. I just kind of listen. I put the dial approximately where I know the station is and just listen for it. But you know, hey, since I've got it out, might as well go through these steps and get it as accurate as I can. Alright, so let's turn that off. Disconnect this and this. And hook up an antenna. Turn this volume down. And let's pick off some stations I know and see how I did. So let's go over to 720 for example.
Crazy things, and Tom said, "Hey, why don't we kind of work together?" And that's where we are. That's cool. Tell me about the
AM 720. Alright.
That is trying to
Should be a station around 1,000.
To the bottom of some of these, the worst of these violations. And, you know, the other thing that
Higher frequencies I'm not that familiar with. So I'd have to wait and listen for the call letters to know for sure if I got it right. Or just fire this back up. If I just leave this hanging near the radio, it'll pick it up. So let's do it. So it should go up to 1700. Let's do 777. I'm tired of listening to 400 hertz, so let's go to 1 kilohertz. I think I increase that output a little bit. Minus 90 dB is pretty darn low. And there it is. Might be off just a hair, but hey, that's good enough for me. And what the heck, let's try the other end too. Oops. So one thing I don't like about this is they've got one keypad that applies to both frequency and amplitude, and when you type in, affects whatever you last were working with. So I was going to type in 550. That's giving me plus 550 dB output, which you can't even do. So I need to do frequency first, and then 550, and 1 kilohertz. That's off a little bit more, and I'm not surprised. These things aren't perfect. I could fight back and forth a little bit, maybe get slightly better, but that's pretty good as it is. Just increase the output a little bit, so I can hear that more clearly. About 30. There we go. And that's probably why they tell you to do 580 and not 550, is that they probably know that there are no stations at 1700 or 550, and it's the very edge, or just about the very end of the tuning capacitor, and things generally get a little off when you get to the extremes. Alright. So, let's see if there's anything in shortwave. I'll put this out while I got this powered up. I had this fired up a while ago and I caught one of those number stations. Somewhere right around here. Oh, there it is. Finally found it. It's the day after I did the alignment. I've had the radio playing off and on throughout the day, and I've been finding that there's a problem now. the volume isn't that hot to begin with, and it fades as the radio warms up. So let's check it out here. So WGN normally on my other radios, booming volume. So this is with it all the way up. It's a little too loud. I'd probably have it down about maybe here. But I could live with this. But I'll let this run for a while, and we'll see what happens. And here it is after only about 3 or 4 minutes. The volume's almost completely gone. And this is one of the strongest stations around here. And you like to run a dial like WIND, I can't even pick up now. But, notice this. If I put my finger on top of the 6A8, I get my reception back. Still not fantastic, but it's certainly audible. GN doesn't make much difference though. Let's try some other stations. 1000 also pretty much booming in. So it seems like there's something wrong with maybe the antenna coil. I checked it for continuity. I've cleaned the band switch. That all seems okay. And since it works a lot better when the set's cold, it seems like it's a heat issue. So where I stuck my finger just now is right here. So essentially I was bypassing this stuff. I'm acting as an antenna going right here. So what could happen in here that would be heat related? Well, another thing we've got here is this cap, and then this network going over to here, which I believe is part of the AVC. So could have an issue. I think, yeah, I replaced both of these resistors and that mica cap and that cap. I do have another 6J5G. I could try replacing that. There are about 1/3 of the old resistors still left in there too, which I can try taking out. In fact, I think I should just go through and take out all the old resistors. They tested okay, but when it comes to something that's heat related, I always think resistors first. When they're carbon, they're wire wound. Usually, heat doesn't make much difference. Either they're open or they're good. But with these old carbon resistors, who knows? So I know one in particular that's in there, it's not even marked on here, is that 20 ohm resistor on the cathode that was confusing me, because it's not in the schematic. It was a later production change that might have drifted off. Could be an issue with this, the CAN ohm resistor, because this definitely gets hot, and if a section of this was to go open, that'd really throw the radio all off. Huh, now check this. Now even putting my finger on it doesn't make any difference. A moment ago it came booming in when I touched that. Now it's not doing jack. So, I'm not quite as savvy with radios as I am with TVs. So if any of you guys out there have an idea of what this might be, please let me know. In the meantime, I'll do what I can. I've checked DC voltages. They all seem to be fine. So I swapped out all the paper caps. The radio seems to work fine when it's cold. Just a few resistors left. I will go ahead and replace those. But if those don't do the trick, well, swap out some tubes. I can do that. Don't have any other 6K5Gs. But I have injected an audio signal here, and it seems to come through strong. I can try doing that again. Which just, will eliminate this as being an issue. I suspect it's something up here. I've checked the broadcast antenna coil, it's fine. I checked the switch, it's fine. The band switch, I've cleaned it. Seems to be okay.